Hello students, this is Mrs. Reenu Bansal, your host on Reenu's Englishpedia. Today we are going to do the chapter Indigo from the book Flamingo. After doing this chapter, you will become aware about the real state of peasants in pre-independence India. You will also realize the importance of self-reliance and the importance of being united in order to progress as a nation. The author of the chapter is Louis Fisher, who was born on 29th February 1896 in America and died on 15th January 1970. He was a Jewish American journalist. Some of his famous works were The God That Failed, The Life of Mahatma Gandhi, which was actually the basis for the Academy Award winning film Gandhi, released in 1982. He also wrote the book Life of Lenin, which won him the National Book Award in History and Biography. The main themes of the chapter are that Gandhiji wanted to remove the fear of the Britishers from the mind and the heart of the Indians, and moreover, he wanted the Indians to be self-reliant. Self-reliant means when you depend on yourself to satisfy or fulfill your own basic needs. This story is actually an excerpt from the book The Life of Mahatma Gandhi, written by Louis Fisher. Louis Fisher interviewed Gandhiji in 1942, and Gandhiji related how he got the urge to hasten the departure of the Britishers from India. It was in the year December 1916 at the annual convention of the Indian National Congress Party in Lucknow that Rajkumar Shukla approached Gandhiji. Rajkumar Shukla was a poor and a thin and withered peasant. He requested Gandhiji to accompany him to Champaran, a village in the foothills of the Himalayas near the Kingdom of Nepal. Gandhiji refused as he had prior commitments in other parts of India. Shukla was illiterate but resolute and accompanied Gandhiji everywhere for weeks on end. Gandhiji was impressed by Shukla's tenacity and story and agreed to help him. He asked Shukla to take him to Champaran on a specific day from Calcutta. On the appointed day, Shukla arrived at Calcutta and took Gandhiji to the house of a lawyer, Mr. Rajendra Prasad. Rajendra Prasad lived in Patna, a city in Bihar. He was the president of the Congress Party, and later he also became the president of India. Since Rajendra Prasad was out of town, the servants, who were familiar with Shukla as the peasant who sometimes troubled Rajendra Prasad, they allowed him to stay on the grounds with his companion Gandhi. However, they mistook Gandhi to be a peasant, that is untouchable, as he was with Shukla and was very simply dressed, and did not allow him to draw water from the well. They feared that some drops from the bucket of water may fall in the well, thus polluting the entire well. Over here, Louis Fisher touches on the topic of untouchability which existed in India. He does not discuss on the problem in detail but just touches upon the topic and leaves us to think for ourselves. From the city of Patna, they decided to go to Muzaffarpur before they went to Champaran in order to get complete information about the condition of the peasants. On 15th April 1917, Gandhiji was received by Professor Kripalani at the station. Again, Gandhiji stayed for 2 days at the home of Professor Malkani, who was a teacher in a government school. It was a very extraordinary affair to give shelter to a man who was a revolutionist and working against the British Empire. In Muzaffarpur, he came to know about the numerous sharecroppers facing the same problem. He also was informed about the size of the fee of the lawyers. Gandhiji scolded the lawyers of Muzaffarpur for collecting such a big fee from the sharecroppers. He came to the conclusion that the peasants should stop going to law courts. He felt this because the peasants were crushed and so fear stricken that law courts were useless for them. They were afraid of the Britishers and could not have stood against them. According to Gandhiji, the real relief for them was to be free from fear. He felt that they must unite together and stand up for their rights. Now, the actual problem in Champaran district was that the agricultural land was divided into large estates which were owned by the Englishmen and were worked on by Indian tenants that were the peasants. The commercial crop was indigo. It was in the contract that 15% of their land had to be planted with indigo and the indigo harvest had to be handed over to the landowner as rent. This had been a long-term contract. However, the problem cropped up when Germany developed synthetic indigo, which was much better and cheaper. The Britishers would have faced a huge loss if they continued with the 15% arrangement. They therefore tricked the poor farmers into paying large sums of money, and in return they promised that the Indian peasants could plant the whole land with just one crop and keep the entire harvest. The farmers who could pay were very glad, as they were rid of the irksome task of sharecropping, and they signed the agreement willingly. However, those who resisted hired lawyers but were tortured by thugs hired by the British landowners into signing the agreement. In the meantime, information about synthetic indigo reached the farmers who had signed. They realized that they had been cheated by the Britishers and now they too wanted their money back. When Gandhiji arrived in Champaran, he immediately visited the British Landlords Association. However, he was denied information by the secretary as Gandhiji was considered to be an outsider. Gandhiji replied that he was no outsider. Gandhiji then called on the British official commissioner of the Tirhut division, who bullied Gandhiji and advised him to leave. Gandhiji then proceeded on to Motihari, the capital of Champaran, with several prominent lawyers. In Motihari, Gandhiji received news of some disturbance in a nearby village. He decided to go to the village but was intercepted by a police superintendent's messenger and was ordered to return to town. Gandhiji complied. However, at home, Gandhiji received an official notice to quit Champaran immediately. Gandhiji signed the receipt for the notice but wrote on it that he would disobey the notice. This was the start of the disobedience movement or the non-cooperation movement. The next day, he was summoned to court. Being well aware of the treacherous nature of the Britishers, Gandhiji decided to take certain measures in case he was arrested. He telegraphed Rajendra Prasad to come from Bihar with influential friends. He also sent instructions to the ashram to be carried on during his absence. He wired a full report of the incident to the Viceroy of India. On the day of the hearing, a great surprise awaited everyone. The morning was filled with thousands of peasants in town. A huge mob was in front of the courthouse to support Gandhiji. This showed the unity of the peasants. This was the beginning of liberation from the fear of the Britishers, and it was also the start of the Satyagraha movement. This acted as a message to the Britishers that Indians will unite together and challenge their authority. The Britishers were unable to control the mob and finally had to enlist Gandhiji's help. The government was baffled. Baffled means confused. The prosecutor requested the judge to postpone the trial. However, Gandhiji protested against the delay. He told the court that he was guilty and explained that his guilt was due to a conflict of duty. On the one hand, he did not want to set a bad example as a lawbreaker, and on the other hand, he wanted to render the humanitarian and national service for which he had come. He disregarded the order to leave not because there was want of respect for lawful authority, but in obedience to the higher law of our being, that is, the voice of our conscience. He asked the judge the penalty due. The magistrate was baffled and announced a 2-hour recess and asked Gandhiji to furnish bail for those 120 minutes, but Gandhiji refused. The judge then released him without bail, and when the court reconvened, the judge postponed the judgment for several days and allowed Gandhiji to remain at liberty. Following this, many prominent lawyers arrived from Bihar to confer with Gandhiji. When Gandhiji asked them what would they do if he was sentenced to prison, the lawyers replied that as there would be no one to advise, they would return home. When Gandhiji questioned them about the injustice to the sharecroppers, it was then that the lawyers realized that Gandhiji, who was a total stranger, was prepared to go to prison for the sake of the peasants. The lawyers felt that it would be very shameful on their part to desert the sharecroppers as they were almost neighbors, and moreover they had also claimed to have served the sharecroppers. They therefore with Gandhiji were prepared to surrender and court arrest. A few days later, Gandhiji was notified that the Lieutenant Governor had ordered the case to be dropped. This was a great victory for the first civil disobedience movement. It is important to remember that till now Gandhiji was only fighting the bureaucracy in the British government. He had still not found justice for the sharecroppers. After this victory, Gandhiji and the lawyers conducted inquiry into the grievances of the farmers. Documents were collected. Gandhiji had 4 interviews with the Lieutenant Governor. As a result, the governor appointed an official commission of inquiry into indigo sharecroppers' situation. However, the commission consisted of landlords, governments, officials, and Gandhiji as the sole representative of the Indian peasants. The official inquiry produced prominent evidence against the British. The British accepted that they had illegally and deceitfully extracted money from the sharecroppers. They asked Gandhiji how much should they pay in return. Gandhiji asked them for 50% but was offered only 25%. However, Gandhiji willingly accepted the 25%. It is very important here to understand why Gandhiji accepted the 25%. According to Gandhiji, the amount of refund was not important. What was more important was that the landlords were obliged to surrender a part of the money along with their prestige. Prestige that they surrendered was more important than money. Money was not the cause of the fight. The aim was that the British should accept that they were wrong. It was the loss of prestige of the British that was more important. Moreover, it would help in breaking the deadlock. The peasants realized that they had rights and defenders to fight for the cause. They did not have to follow or be afraid of the Britishers. They gained courage. In a few years, British planters abandoned their estates. It was given back to the peasants. Indigo sharecropping completely disappeared from Champaran. Gandhiji's fight for Champaran did not end here. Gandhiji saw cultural and social backwardness in the villages. He appealed for teachers. Primary schools were opened in 6 villages. Health conditions being miserable, Gandhiji got a doctor to volunteer his services for 6 months. 3 medicines were made available: castor oil for anybody who had a coated tongue, quinine for anybody who had malarial fever, and sulfur ointment for anybody who had skin infections. Kasturba, that is Gandhiji's wife, taught ashram rules on personal cleanliness and community sanitation to the women. However, one woman took Kasturba to her hut and showed how empty her hut was and how she could not wash her clothes as she had only one set of clothes, the clothes she was wearing. Again, the chapter does not discuss this problem in detail. It just touches upon the economic condition in Champaran. The Champaran episode was a turning point in Gandhiji's life. Gandhiji felt that what he did was very ordinary, but he declared that the Britishers could not order him about in his own country. He believed that Champaran was not an act of defiance. It grew from a desire to remove the distress of large number of poor peasants. His loyalty was to living human beings and not to abstractions. Gandhiji promoted and molded a new free Indian who could stand on his feet and help make India free. Gandhiji taught self-reliance. He believed that self-reliance, Indian independence and help to the sharecroppers were all bound together. There is another very important incident that Gandhiji recalls in his interview with Louis Fisher. He said that early in the Champaran action, his lawyer friends thought it would be a good idea to enlist the help of Charles Freer Andrews, who was an English pacifist. He had become a devoted follower of Gandhiji. Andrews too was willing to help, but Gandhiji vehemently opposed the idea. He argued that if you took the help of a Britisher to fight the British, then you will never be able to fight them on your own. It showed the weakness of their heart. Rajendra Prasad accepted the truth of Gandhiji's argument and they did not take his help. With this, we come to the end of a very beautiful chapter. I hope that you liked my video. Please remember to like, share and subscribe to Reno's Englishpedia. Thank you.